What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Potential Unleashed. We're back with another video. This is Classroom of the Elite Year 2 Volume 6 review. I told you guys I was going to start pumping more of these out. This book was really good. It was about the sports festival. Got a lot of stuff, not going to lie. I do think this was one of my least favorites of the Year 2 collection. But that's kind of funny because I say it's a really good book, but it's my least favorite simply because Kiyotaka was really involved in, well, he was, but he kind of took a step back in this one. I was expecting a little bit more from him from the sports festival. Also, other characters that I love weren't really in this as much as well. But if you guys enjoy regular anime content, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. I greatly appreciate it. And if you guys do want to hang out with me on Twitch, I recently started streaming there. I'm reacting to stuff and doing other things there. I'll leave it in the description below. But with that away, my name is Potential Unleashed, and let's get into the review. Chapter 1, AKITO MIYAKE'S Soliloquy. He is one of these people who doesn't necessarily believe that he is a special person. He picked up archery to just pass the time that he's spending at school. He found the Ayanokoji group to be very comfortable, and he enjoyed hanging around them. And then he also fell in love with Sabe. Now, whenever it comes to falling in love, I feel like that's always a drive or something. And whenever there's somebody, at least in anime, they are willing to do anything to be with them. So when during the special exam, whenever she decided, hey, I nominate myself to be voted out, he didn't want that, and that's why he ended up voting Ari without any hesitation. And so Haruka, who is a fan of Ari, and was her closest friend, she asks AKITO, hey, are you with me, and will you want to seek revenge? And he ends up going with her and down the plan to seek revenge for Ari. Chapter 2, the price of victory. So there were some lingering effects that the unanimous vote left. Number 1 dealt with Kushida spreading secrets because people, they thought their secrets were safe with her, that they could confide in her, and she ended up spreading rumors, which caused the class some discomfort. Number 2, that people there starting to avoid or avert their gaze when dealing with Haruka because of how she turned her back on what she promised the class. And then number 3, Kiyotaka. A lot of people thought that he was somebody more reserved and that he didn't have the ability to do what he did. And he also voted out a student, or well, a lower student, without any hesitation. So they assumed that, hey, if he did it with them and somebody close to him, somebody he considered a friend, then we aren't safe as well. Kiyotaka, he personally thought that Haruka made the wrong choice and he didn't agree with her decision. However, he believes that she'll grow from this, and others, they disagree with what she did as well. However, she made the decision, she has to live with it, they have to move on. And like Kiyotaka says, that just because you're the smartest person, that doesn't mean that you know everything and that everything has to be the way that you want it done, or that whatever you say is the right course of action. We also want to note that Haruka, she knocked on Kushida's door, however she didn't answer, and this insinuates that she's not going to come to school. I mean, how could she? After exposing herself to the class, who would be her ally? She asks Kiyotaka how he feels about the situation because she feels guilty that as a leader, she didn't handle the situation better, and then Kiyotaka had to step in and one of his friends were sacrificed. And he tells her that he's saddened, but it's alright. He does miss her, but it had to be done. But we know Kiyotaka, he's the type of person that he won't let emotions get in the way of a logical decision. He does mention, though, that there's the possibility that the remaining members of the Ayanokoji group, Kese, AKITO, and Haruka, that they could work together to try and bring down the class in revenge for Ari. So then we cut to Kiyotaka going to class where different people are staring at him, but he don't give a fluff. Chabishira, she comes up to him and asks, hey, are you now trying to go for class A again? Because we know that originally he didn't want to go to class A, then Chabishira forced his hand, and then now that different things are taken care of, he doesn't have to achieve for that anymore, so he just brushes off the question. Different individuals from the class, they aren't showing up to school. Those include Michan, Haruka, and Kushida, because those are the 3 main people, plus Shinohara, I guess, that were affected by Kushida spreading rumors. And if they continue to be absent, then the class will definitely suffer, so it's imperative that they start coming back to class. The different groups of girls with Shinohara, Kei, Matsushita, Sato, and a few more. They aren't speaking to Shinohara because of what happened. We know that Kei and the others were making fun of how she looks and her relationship with Ike as well. After class ended, Chabishiro, she calls out to Kiyotaka saying that Sakura made a purchase with 5,000 points, and she questions, what are we going to do with it? We find out what Sakura buys, but it's not mentioned in this book. That doesn't happen till book 7, so I'll talk about it there. Kiyotaka, he was called to the student council room during lunch, where he noticed Ichinose there as well, and she looks at him, he looks at her. It's kind of awkward because she is still avoiding him for what happened in year 2, volume 4.5. So she hurries up, eats, and leaves. Then Nagamo and Kiyotaka, they have a discussion, and Nagamo wants to compete with Kiyotaka in the sports festival because this is one of the only opportunities that different classes and different years get to compete at the same time. And this sports festival, it's kind of the same, but a little bit unique. You have it to where the different individuals, they compete to get the most points. That's the same. However, you also can do single events and you can do team events. Team events are worth more than single events. So let's just say somebody does a certain amount of single events, they can only get so many points because they don't compete in the duo events, and that allows them to get more points. And also, I want to mention that I believe that there's a total of 10 events you can participate in, but there's a minimum requirement of 2. So Nagamo challenges Kiyotaka, and he tells him he'll consider the challenge and see whether or not he wants to go against him or not. Chapter 3, An Unavoidable Path. Hirata, he wants to ask Kiyotaka and get his thoughts on the situation regarding the class. Kei, she says she'll be there as well. So we cut to his room, and Kei and Kiyotaka, they're spending time together. A lot of girls, when Kiyotaka asked about how people feel about their relationship, a lot of girls believe that Kei made a mistake in dumping Hirata for Kiyotaka. She thinks that it's a downgrade, but at the same time, well, Kei doesn't, the girls do. But at the same time, we know exactly the type of person that, number 1, Kiyotaka is, and 2, the situation with Hirata and how it was a fake relationship. But more and more as time goes on, girls are starting to see Kiyotaka's true value. And then Kei and Kiyotaka, they spend the remaining time before Hirata gets there just doing things that a normal couple would do, spending time together, eating together, etc. During this, Kei mentions that she feels bad about the situation going on with Shinohara, and she asks Kiyotaka the question, if she were in the bottom like Sakura, what decision would he make? Would he cut her off? And he tells her no. And he does this to try to make her feel better because Kiyotaka, he's not going to change. He doesn't do things based off of emotion. And if she was in the bottom, he definitely would have cut her off. They talk about whether or not saving Kushida was the right choice. And Kiyotaka, he believes that Kushida will be someone that rivals Harikta and will allow her to grow as a leader and could potentially be a partner better than anything that Kei or Hirata could ever be. Hirata, he ends up talking with Kiyotaka in his room, and the reason why he went to him was because Harikta, she's busy dealing with Kushida, and Kei and Hirata, they also believe that Kiyotaka, he has better judgment than Harikta, so that's another reason why he ended up coming. So they talk about the situation of the class, and then Kei, she ends up leaving, and Hirata, he ends up staying. He wants to talk specifically about Michan because he believes that's his problem to deal with. Now, he wasn't joking with this, but it's kind of funny. Well, at least to me, it was funny. He said that, hey, if you want to fix this, the only thing you could do is just accept her feelings and go out with her. However, Hirata, he doesn't really know how he feels, but he's more along the lines of he doesn't want to play with her emotions. And then Kiyotaka, his rebuttal is, well, you did it with Kei, you had a fake relationship with her. You could have a fake relationship or accept the feelings, and then something could grow from there. But like Hirata says, he doesn't want to keep on playing with her feelings or anything in that regard. They also talk about Hirata's growth a little bit because in the past, he definitely would not have been able to vote off a classmate like that and still be able to function. And he even mentioned himself that the decision was hard and he was shaken afterward. But Kiyotaka, he's like, hey man, I appreciate your growth and what you did to handle in that situation. So Hirata, he ends up saying he's very upset about what happened with Sakura, but he ends up trusting that Kiyotaka, whatever he says, that he's basically doing the right thing. The next day, Kiyotaka and Sudo, they are headed to the restroom together because Sudo wants to talk to them. And then Onodera, she ends up calling out to Sudo, but notices Kiyotaka's with him, and she's like, oh, I really want to talk to you alone. But she ends up talking, in Kiyotaka's presence. Basically, she wants to work with Pseudo during the sports festival because they're both athletic. I believe she's on the swim team and Pseudo, he's on the basketball team. And so working together, two of the best in the class in athletic ability, that if they work together, they'll end up getting the most points. And Pseudo, he's like, oh, well, you know, you could work with Koenji if you wanted that. And she's like, well, he's too hard to deal with. And she knows that Pseudo only has eyes for Harikta, and after a little bit of dialogue, he ends up agreeing. He's like, hey, I'll work with you. In the bathroom, they talk about the class situation. Specifically, Pseudo is talking more about Ike and Shinohara because that is his friend, and he wants anything to go right with them. He wants what's best for them. And so they talk about that. Nothing more, nothing really special about that. Just Hirata and Kiyotaka, they go to the gymnasium, and they see every class in their year but them. They're working on things for the sports festival, and this has Hirata a little bit worried because he's like, oh shoot, is our class really in that dire state that we can't even practice for the sports festival? And this is where Kiyotaka, he says, all right, I'm gonna step in, I'm gonna handle it. Chapter 4, still, we gotta do it. Harikta, she is struggling right now, dealing with a lot. She's preparing for the sports festival, being the leader. She's dealing with stuff for the student council, and then she also has to deal with the different absences from the students. And Chabishira, she noticed this and goes to talk to her, where she has her first heart-to-heart with a student that's not Kiyotaka. And I love this because after the last book, she talked about how she wants to help her class get to class A. And Kiyotaki's like, well, now that you finally accepted what happened, you can really start being a teacher that guides the student. The advice that she gives is pretty good, not gonna lie. Sometimes, even though something can be very simple and you already know the answer, it's good to hear from somebody else because that's reassuring to you and you won't doubt your judgment. She says not to dwell on the past and focus on the things ahead of you because nobody is perfect and everybody makes mistakes. It's about how you learn and grow from those mistakes that matters. And so she says, hey, if you need any help as your teacher, I will always be here to support you. Stealing her resolve, she goes to Kishida's door again, and Ibuki is there as well. If Ibuki ends up getting Kishida out of her room, then Harikta will compete in different events against her. So Ibuki, she ends up like kicking on her door, saying some stuff, getting Kishida to open the door. And Ibuki's like, hey, I did my job, you're gonna compete with me, I'm gonna go. And so now Harikta and her have a conversation. Harikta is pleading with her to come back to school, and Kishida's like, well, I have no purpose being there. People now know my secret, they know my true personality, so I have nowhere to go. And plus, seeing Harikta scramble around like this and panic like this, it's, you know, a sight for sore eyes, right? And so Harikta, she's like, well, if you come back to school, you don't have to try to get to class A for nothing other than yourself because you still want to graduate from there, right? So if you help the class, you're essentially helping yourself. This scene was kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie, because Kushida agrees, and then because of like how much they hate each other and they're trying to get each other to smile, they forcibly grab each other's cheeks and force a smile. I don't know, I love their dynamic. I love how they work together. Well, they don't work together, but it's like how they go together. It's so cool. And this probably right here is where I started. And well, I didn't dislike Kushida. I kind of disliked the false persona she had, but the different moments of her true personality, that's where I really liked her. And after this book, and specifically this scene right here, Kushida started becoming one of my favorite characters. Michan, she is going to talk to Kiyotaka. She ends up knocking on his door and she sees Karuzawa ends up leaving. She appears to be upset. Michan, she feels bad about interrupting their one-on-one time as a couple. However, Karuzawa, she ends up reassuring that she isn't upset. Michan has a better understanding of Karuzawa as a person. At first she thought she was just a stuck-up mean person, but she's actually really loving and caring. Michan, she has a question. She's like, how can Kiyotaka still go to school, still be strong with everything that he's gone through? I mean, he's not really going through anything, but still looking at it from the outside looking in, a normal person would be dealing with a lot, having to go to school after sacrificing one of your closest friends. And so Kiyotaka, he assures her, he's like, it's hard, but I'm pushing through, you know, just giving her lip service so that she could still go back to school. And she's concerned about coming back, not because she doesn't want to, but because she sits right in front of Hirata and she feels bad about the whole situation. And Kiyotaka reassures to her that Hirata isn't angry at her or anything. In actuality, he actually feels bad and responsible for her not coming. And so Michan, she claims that because of this, and how she doesn't want to make Harada feel bad, that she'll start coming back to school. As Michan leaves, Amasawa, she knocks on the door. She comes in. She starts looking around the room, having a conversation with Kiyotaka, asks if he likes girls with long hair, just, you know, having some dialogue with him because she adores him. She looks up to him, and, you know, if he likes somebody with long hair, she's growing out her hair, trying to be someone that he'll start looking for. As she leaves, Kiyotaka, he understands her purpose for being here. It was to look for different wires or listening devices that the White Room planted in his room. As she left, AKITO sent a message to Kiyotaka saying that Hasabe will be at school, and so the 3 students who have been absent, they finally are returning, and the class will be whole again. So the next day, all the students get there. Kushida, she was kind of late a little bit when Chabashida started, and the atmosphere, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of awkward. I mean, how couldn't it be? We all know what happened. And so Kushida, she was showing her true personality. She went to Michan, she apologized, but she was like, this is how it's gonna be, like, and if you guys don't like it, then y'all can kick rocks. And I love Kushida because she's out here. At first she was trying to be the good girl to get along with everybody, but now that she's being selfish and doing things that she wants to do, everybody's gonna look at her like it's a bad thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, like spilling the secrets and all was kind of effed up, but at the same time, she shouldn't have to hide who she truly is. And I love the fact that she's being herself. Hasabe, she tells Kiyotaka to spare some time. Him and Harita at the mall. They go to the mall. Akito's there as well. He's only there to support Hasabe. They end up talking about her situation and with the class. Basically, she tells them that she's going to try to get revenge on the 2 of them because she is upset with them and why they expel Sakura. She's also really mad at Harita specifically because, and I mentioned this in my video talking about was the decision right or wrong, how she as the leader said one thing and she turned her back saying that, hey, I'd kick out the traitor in Kushida, and then she tried to save her, which I can understand why Hasabe is saying that, because, well, as a leader, you know, with my friend getting expelled and you said that, you know, you would expel somebody else, it's kind of messed up. She's also upset with Kiyotaka for, during the confusion, how he targeted Sakura, but at the same time, I mean, who else was there to target? But I can understand from her perspective. And Harita, she's trying to persuade her. She's like, hey, is there anything I can do to atone for this? Like, how can I help you? Where Hasabe is like, well, then bring back Sakura. And that, well, they already got the point, so it's kind of impossible to do. There's also an image that's going on during all this of Hasabe. Not gonna lie, she looks really rough. She looks depressed. She looks sad. I'm just gonna say it. She looked kind of nasty. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how looking at that AKITO can, you know, like that. Chapter 5, an arrangement. So after dealing with this, Kiyotaka and Harita, they have a meeting with Ruin and Katsuragi, and Ruin asks how Harita feels about being the only one to expel a student. He ordered orange juice, by the way. You guys are probably going to wonder why I said that. That's pretty important for something that happens later during this chapter. And Harita, she knows that he's just trying to use mental warfare, try to get inside her head to run this meeting. But she ends up saying, hey, I'm fine. It's all good. The purpose of this meeting is to have a cooperative relationship to take down Class A, specifically for the sports festival. And it could be something further beyond that. And so they work together in order to hinder Class A's movement so they could get the least amount of points possible, while them two end up rising in the ranking. Ruin refuses, and Harita's like, well, okay, if you're not gonna accept my terms, then I'll motherfucking leave. And she's like, all right, Kiyotaka, let's go. And because of how she's changed and that she's no longer gonna like try and bribe him or try and persuade him to stay, Ruin, he's like, all right, I'll listen to what you got to say. Ruin makes a good point, and I love this about him. He's like, well, because Kiyotaka's here, you're all big and bad, you're talking your talk. And I agree. And so he ends up picking up the orange juice and throwing it at Kiyotaka, who dodges it. But from the beginning, he knew that there was a possibility that Ruin would do something like this. And so Ruin asks her, he's like, do you think a normal person could dodge something like that, where she denies it? And like I mentioned earlier, Ruin's like, oh, because you got somebody big and bad like this, you got an ace up your sleeve, you think you're better than what you are, you can demand different things and talk to me any kind of way, which is kind of right. Which I agree, because just because, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ruin, he's not going to give a fluff whether Kiyotaka is an ace or not, he's still going to try to beat him, still going to try to win. But he does mention that if you want to continue this conversation, then Kiyotaka, he's going to have to leave the room. And she refuses, probably because, I mean, everybody insinuates that she knows exactly what happened on the rooftop between him and Ruin. After some constant dialogue, they end up coming to an agreement where the classes will have an alliance to take down Saganaki. Now they question, how the fluff are we going to do this? Because even though she is physically handicapped, she still is the brains behind the operation. And Kiyotaka, he's like, all right, I'll handle it. However, do not rely on me not to get a single point in the sports festival. And so this could only mean that he's not going to be participating. And they all look at him, they're like, hey, all right, you are a physical monster, but at the same time, will it be a loss for you? Absolutely. But if you can take out Saganaki, hey, we're all here for it. We then switch to Saganaki and Hashimoto, where Saganaki, she knows, she's like, oh, Ruin and Harita, yeah, they're going to work together. And the odds are with their classes united going against me, they're probably going to win. Harita will probably get first and Ruin will get second. However, I'm still going to participate. I'm still going to be the brains behind the operation so that we can win. Later, we switch with Kiyotaka and Kei. They are shopping for Kiyotaka a birthday present, and they run into Sato, who greets them and then leaves. They also run into Ishizaki, and he's like, hey, because you and Ruin share the same birthday, let's have a party together. And Kei's like, well, why the fluff would we do that? I want to spend time with him, and if he's spending time with you, somebody I don't like, well, I'm not going to be a part of that. And so Ishizaki, he tries to apologize as much as possible. And then Kei's like, well, hey, I'll agree to doing this birthday party thing if you end up getting Ruin to bow down and apologize to me. We're doing a lot of switching here. We cut to Sato. She ran away because even though she is friends with both Kiyotaka and she's especially friends with Kei, it still doesn't feel right to her seeing them two together, obviously because she likes Kiyotaka, where she ends up being approached by someone, a first-year student, who has some knowledge of Kei and Kiyotaka, and stated that it's something that Sato might want to know. This mysterious first year also hints at the possibility of getting Kei expelled, and that would leave Kiyotaka without a girlfriend, and well, Sato could fill that position. And so this first year gives Sato the decision to make, hey, do you want to know this information? I don't think, not to my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I don't think she ended up agreeing, or at the same time she did, we don't know that she accepted it. She could very well have, I'm not sure. Later that night, Kiyotaka, he calls Harita and says, hey, I'm not going to be participating in the sports festival. We know, I believe it was book 5, that director Saganaki gave him the choice of not participating or not, and in order to stop Saganaki, this is what he decided to do. Chapter 6, the second sports festival. Now, the reason why I'm not the biggest fan of this book compared to the other sports festival, I still think it was good, but it's because the actual sports aspect of it wasn't really highlighted much. I wish it was, but we got like half a chapter. Well, it was the whole chapter, but really half a chapter in regards to the actual competition, which kind of sucked. During the sports festival, Class A was getting destroyed, and this is because Saganaki wasn't giving orders. There was Ruin, his class, their job was to get in the way of Class A. And so there was a scene, I believe, with Ishizaki and Hashimoto where he was interfering, saying, hey, you bumped into me, they got a teacher involved, something along that. Only something that Ruin would do. Tsuda and Onodera, they were doing really good. We got a highlight of their final match. I believe it was a tennis match. They were going against Hosen, and Hosen, he did something that made Onodera twist her ankle, and she was kind of a liability during the match. I mean, it wasn't her fault, but because she was injured, that was the case. And Tsuda, he put the team on the back, not gonna lie. He ended up beating Hosen together with Onodera, and they ended up getting this cool picture of him holding her, running up to her, hugging her, something along those lines. She started blushing. And I mean, we know why from the start, why she wanted to be partners. It was more than just so they could get a high class rating, because she has a little crush on him. Nagumo and Kiryuin, they end up talking. She mentions something about Kiyotaka not being there, and Nagumo, he was pretty pissed about this. He was visually upset. We know he's usually a calm and collected person, but because Kiyotaka flaked on him, he was upset. He talked to Harita about it, and Harita was trying to feign ignorance, and Nagumo was like, all right, too much of a coward to face me, that's all right. I ended up taking it out, not just on him, it could be people around him, and could be his class potential. Ibuki, in her challenges with Harikta. The score is 1-1. They were going to do one more challenge, however, they ended up working together along with Kushida in a volleyball event, and they would be going against Amasawa and Nanase. And the reason why Kushida, Ibuki, and Harikta teamed up is because even though they don't like each other, they also have a strong hatred for Amasawa even more, and they wanted to crush her. The results of this game was Harikta's team. They ended up winning. Chapter 7, The Guest. Kiyotaka, he is in his room and a guest arrived. This guest is Harasu Saganaki. He believed that if he stayed out, then Saganaki would attempt to talk to him in a one-on-one setting where nobody would really be around, because she knows that Kiyotaka, he's a part of the White Room, and anytime she can, she tries to meet with him in secret. Apparently, Kiyotaka, the reason why this happened is because he mentioned to director Saganaki to pass it on to his daughter that he wouldn't be participating, and this is why she ended up knowing and coming to his room. They end up talking, and they both have the same goal in mind. She wants to prove that she is smarter or a better genius than somebody from the White Room, and at the same time, Kiyotaka wants to prove that the White Room isn't necessarily correct and that there could be someone outside of it that is smarter than members of the White Room. As they are talking, Saganaki, she ends up figuring out Kiyotaka's true intentions, his true goal, and she ends up about to reveal it, where Kiyotaka, in order to shut her up, he pushed her down on the bed. And so the reason why he did this is because he doesn't want her to blab for anybody else to hear what his true intentions are. And in order for him to have her stay quiet so that she doesn't blackmail him, he ends up taking a picture of her laying on the bed. Because, well, seeing Class A's leader like this is pretty embarrassing, not gonna lie. They continue to talk, and Saganaki notices a picture of Kei, and she questions why that Kiyotaka is going out with her. Is he doing it for some experiment? Is he doing it to save her? The answer, is it both? I'm not really sure. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's more of the experiment part, because he's trying to experience everything that a high school life has to offer, and love is a part of that as well. I love this because it shows that Saganaki, she is the only one who truly understands Kiyotaka as a person. As they continue to talk, the doorbell on his door rang, and a man is talking to him, speaking to both of them, and they both know this person or heard of him. He says that Kiyotaka should watch his back, and they're like, this sounds like somebody I've heard a few years ago, probably somebody in the White Room. We get the sports festival results. Harita's class is number 1, followed by Ruin, then Ishinose, and then Saganaki. Suda and Onodera, they end up placing first place overall. Koenji places second, and this is because he only participated in the single events, whereas the duo events, that allows for more points to be gained. Kiyotaka, he ends up revealing his true goal about Kiyotaka ends up revealing his true goal, and this is where Saganaki had figured it out, but he ended up cutting her off. And I did a video about this, and I'll leave it in the description where I go in depth about it. But basically, he says that he's going to try and defeat Harita's class after their growth has been achieved. Once they're feeling invincible, he will show them defeat himself. He doesn't want to lose, but at the same time, he does want to lose, which I find kind of funny. Like I said, I did a video about it. I'll leave it in the description below. Chapter 8, The Arrival of Ada. Apparently, AKITO, he quit the archery club. At first, Hasebe was like, did you do it for me? And he's like, nah, I just did it because, well, I wanted to. She wants to get revenge, not only on Kiyotaka, not only Harita, but Kushida as well, because they are the main people for Sakura's expulsion. And she blames everybody in the class as well because they had a say in it and they could have not voted her out as well. And Hasebe, she feels bad for including AKITO in her quest for revenge, but at the same time, because he loves her so much, he's willing to do anything for her. And AKITO and Hasebe, they walk, and he's like, hey, I'll assist you in your quest for revenge. So yeah, that was Classroom Elite Year 2, Volume 6. Like I said, it was good, don't get me wrong, but because Kiyotaka started revealing himself more and more, I kind of wanted him to participate in the sports festival. I really wanted to see him go against Nagamo, but at the same time, it didn't happen. Him strategically taking Saganaki out the fight, that was cool. And seeing the class start to forgive each other a little bit and try to come together to work towards Class A, that was really what this book was about. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your guys' thoughts about this book in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. hit the notification bell. I greatly appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok on the screen in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.